certainly a use for urgent cares.
Yes,
No question about
absolutely.
it. I would urge everyone watching right now to not assume that the doctor who tells you you don't need antibiotics is a bad doctor. I would argue that most likely that is a good doctor trying to take their time to explain why you don't need them and why, in fact, taking them would be bad for your health and potentially others as well. But if you need an antibiotic and you need it, and you're talking to your doctor and they're a good doctor and they say, you need this, you have pneumonia, you need to take that antibiotic. So it's life-saving on the one hand and killing people on the other. So what do you think's the answer?
I think education is power, and education not only for the patients, but also the clinicians. Urgent care providers, they aren't infectious disease trained. And when we all became in the healthcare profession, we all signed an oath that we would protect all of society, and giving antibiotics away is not a way to do that, but education is a way to do that. So what I have in my setting, my practice setting, is I have a commitment poster that I've signed that I will only give an antibiotic if you really need that antibiotic. And it gives pamphlet, there's also a brochure and pamphlet for the patient to read in that waiting room so that they're educated in that free time. So short answer, education. Education to the patient, education for the provider, for them to really want to learn about the negative consequences of giving an antibiotic.
I think that when you go to an urgent care and you're not feeling well, you shouldn't go in there trying to get antibiotics in the first place. And it goes back to your point, Travis, where it's like, you should ask the doctor, do I need this antibiotic? Because if I don't need it, then I don't want it. Like, they're just giving it out blindly, and you may not need it. That's not gonna do anything good for yourself.
Well, and the cultural norm is, and I've seen it look in this office, we've had a lot of producers over the years that have learned the hard way, but it's, they get the sore throat, a little bit of stuffy congestion, and it's, I have a busy week at work. I need to nip this in the bud and go get an antibiotic. So you've already created this paradigm in your mind that you need an antibiotic to get better. When the reality is it can take 7 to 10 days for a cold to resolve. And if on day 3, you go get an antibiotic, you're gonna get better in 4 or 5 days regardless, or 2 or 3 days later, and you mentally associate it. I mean, we used to have producers line up going to these urgent cares. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
And remember what I would say? You guys, you have a cold. You have a cold, it's a virus. But what is everyone doing now? It took time, but the conversation has shifted, hasn't it?
It has shifted, and I'm glad it shifted. Yeah.
And so now the
Education,
idea is
like
that
you
it should
said,
shift throughout the country.
Well,
Everyone here.
unfortunately, Travis, my two kids, as you know, are both physicians and went to medical school recently. And I know for a fact that medical school now is driving it into their students that you prescribe antibiotics only when you've made a diagnosis, you've identified a specific organism that's sensitive to this antibiotic. That's the only indication. I'm not sure why these doctors are changing their thinking once they get out into private practice.
Sometimes it's because, like Leslie said, what she found, people...
The patients aren't going to be happy. They're not going to
they're
get the
demanding
rating.
it.
Right, and they want a good
Which is really
review on the internet.
So it's incumbent upon all of us as healthcare providers, as patients, and I don't think anyone here is trying to undermine the importance of antibiotics or having easy access to care, but just be aware when it comes to your own family and ask, is this antibiotic necessary? We did invite the Urgent Care Association trade group to join today's discussion, but they declined and sent us a long statement instead that includes the following. The Urgent Care Association and our members are committed to being part of the solution to ensure appropriate antibiotic prescribing. They then describe at length how they are taking part in an antibiotic stewardship initiative. They conclude by saying, we will continue to focus on responsible antibiotic stewardship and appreciate the commitment our members have made to responsible antibiotic prescribing. And in defense to that statement, it's incumbent upon the individual practitioner at every urgent care, at every clinic, at every emergency department. It's incumbent upon them. I mean, it's the individual prescriber who needs to make better decisions. The entire statement, we're going to have that on our website, thedoctorstv.com. Dr. Sklar, thank you so much for being a part of today's show.